Well, where'd my chat go? Well, I realized I got disconnected. But I did not have my phone on double checking that like I did the other day. And I don't know that it shows it here. Well, my chat window is fucked at this point. I don't see it there. Okay, now how do I get my chat window back up? Let me close this for a second. Let's try this. Refresh chat. Let me try that. There we go. And let's change it to this. Like I've said before, if I disconnect and I don't go like, hey, I'm getting ready to leave, it was against my wishes. All right, let's try this again. And then we'll fix the title of this thing at some later date. And let's leave this up so I could monitor this. It's really annoying when I don't do anything any different any other time I do it. It's always the same way. And it wants to behave completely different frequently. I guess that's what happens when you use a program that's free. But I don't have a producer, nor do I know anybody who's a software engineer, nor do I do this for a living, where I can be abreast of problems and realize I don't know if there's anything I can do differently. Well, I know there's nothing I can do differently because I don't know how to do it. So I appreciate you guys putting up with the nonsense that comes, but I can't fix it. That's not my skill set. I'm a painter, damn it, not a software engineer or YouTube person. I've tried to watch a couple programs, try to make the channel better, and I'm like, I just don't have that kind of investment. That'll just burn me out of just doing videos at all. Just like one day I was like, I need to figure out how to shuffle cards better. I'm the world's worst card shuffler. So let me watch a couple YouTube videos. Watched like 3 of them, tried it. Nope, there's no hope for me. Just like Mitch can't paint, I can't shuffle cards. No. Besides, it gives other people a chance to be good at something. Okay, that guy's trimmed up. This guy already had a base on him, so he is trimmed up. Yeah, if I ever disconnect out, that guy didn't say goodbye to me. I didn't want to. I'm not going to cut myself off in mid-sentence on purpose. I'm not that kind of sadist. I'm a different kind of sadist. Okay. Metzler. And then when we're done with this, we'll grab a couple of, we'll do one guy at a time and do a few of these guys, and because we need to goop them up and put little rocks and stuff on them. We need to bring these guys up to modern day standards. And this This little Platoon 20 guy is actually a pretty good figure. So not all the Platoon 20 guys are necessarily garbage. Or disproportionate. That's a lot of figures that you would say aren't very good are because they're either disproportionate, they're in some awkward pose, and or they look generic. Because even like the Airfix figures look just fine. Many of them. I got a dig in the garage. I got this big bag of like all my old Airfix and Eschi figures. Like really old. We're going back, well, not compared to some of you guys, but we're going back way for me. And I'll bring them and we can talk about them on Sunday. We can do that on Sunday morning if we're not under a storm. Which I don't think we'll be. I don't think we're going to need kind of winds or disconnects or anything like that. Storms looks like it's going to go right over us, but I don't think it's going to pick up any kind of strength when it does that. And then when we're done with this stuff, well, we can just paint new figures. You know, there'll be new figures to paint with bases and stuff. Now, all these guys are named because that's an important part of the game where you... What happened here? Okay. I need this where I can see it. Okay. And as long as there's movement here, I know that we're good. It's important, you know, whose turn's next. So you got to put some kind of an ID on the figure. So at that point, it might as well be their name. Pretty simple. Now, if you're playing something like and I like how it looks with the name of the figure. If I didn't, yeah, it'd be a problem. But I like how it looks. Other people may not like the way it looks. That's fine. Don't do your figures that way then. As the Frenchman says, mind your own business. There's lots of stuff I don't like. I don't feel like I have to comment there. Like, I don't like the way you do that. Well, don't do it that way then. I don't like the look of that. Well, then why are you still on that page? I don't like you. Well, why are you interacting with me? There's lots of things I don't like. I don't like pester that person. I got this one friend of mine who likes putting a bunch of political stuff on his page. I don't really care to, but he does. And he's like, he commented, he's like, I'm just going to unfriend people because it seems like some people don't ever comment on my... He just put that today. Said, nobody comments on my stuff other than they want to start an argument. There's people out there that just have a hard-on for arguments. I don't... They must, like, live a lonely life or whatever, you know? There's lots of stuff I don't like, and I don't comment on. I usually only comment on something that's like that is that somebody who I agree with it, you know. But if I don't go to somebody's page that I disagree with and go start trying to do trouble. But I guess there's some people that just enjoy getting frustrated for free. No, you got to pay me, and I'm not even necessarily happy about that. I'd rather not get paid for the frustration. Just avoid it altogether. Varela. This guy's got a thinner base bottom. We got so many of these things. Let's give him a new base bottom. How about that? I don't know where this guy's supposed to be. Puerto Rican or whatever. Was there a lot of Puerto Ricans in World War II? It's probably a fair number of them. Nuyorican. He's a corporal or something like that. With a Garand. You know, if you're going to have a rifle, Garand's not a bad choice. Wish the feed mechanism was in a box or something like that instead of that end block clip, but it was a great weapon other than that. And some people would say even with that it was a great weapon. Just give it a box magazine like the BAR. Imagine a Garand with a 20-round box magazine. That's stellar. Well, it'd be like an M14 then. Fired one before. It's a great weapon. Sights on it are stellar. Put the pumpkin on the post. Get rid of that. I'm not gonna be able to see anything of that. 5 viewers silent. I hope you guys are seeing this okay. I guess you guys are. Otherwise you would have left. Sorry about that disconnect earlier, but look, I got both hands here. It's not my doing. So I was saying earlier, if you guys ever order something from eBay, make sure when it says under shipping method, it does not say speed pack, or you may not get it. Because right now should have been here over a week, and it shows it delivered to the town next to the town I live in. So it's just a shit show right now. So luckily it's not something I need for this scenario, and I've kind of in my mind written it off that I'm never going to get it. What's up, Darren? Don't order anything from SpeedPack. Makes the U.S. Postal Service seem like a good thing. See, almost to the day, these guys are 20 years old. And I was a little suspect that I was going to be happy with how they turned out. But I did those other ones, and I'm pleasantly surprised. I mean, we gotta put modern basing on them so that they look decent. Calvin at the run. So the first iteration I did my figure, the first group of folks that I did, I identified them, but I identified them by number. So like my first German squad was 1 through 10. I believe the squad leader was 10. The assistant squad leader was 9. 8 was the guy with the light machine gunner and so forth. But you can't put a face on an 8. Like, you can't go, that guy looks like a 4, that guy looks like a whatever. And you have to have some kind of a label, and you have to have some kind of a label on the top, so that when you pull the chit for Moran, you're not going around looking like, is it this guy? Nope. Is it this guy? Nope, it's not that guy. And every time you pick them up and put them down, you're moving them around by 2 or 3 millimeters. Even if you're trying to be, accurate, and if you're trying to be deceitful, there's no telling what you're moving it by. But the name's on the back right here, facing up, so you shouldn't have to pick up the figure at all. Only time you're picking up the figure is if he's a goner. Okay, and this is Willard, who is assistant to the mortar man. He's a 60 millimeter helper, I believe is he's actually the loader. He's got the round in his hand. All right. All right, he's back. Yeah, I've been back. I never left. It's amazing I've been able to do the stuff that I've been able to do with this YouTube because I am clueless. Well, it should be easy to use, but there's interferences going on. I have a minimum of people here at the house today, so it's not bandwidth usage here. I don't know, they're just variables. So this is Young, who's got a Tommy gun. Another guy with a Tommy gun. Anderson. The Thompson machine gun. I was playing some game many years ago. It might have been Brothers in Arms. And you get a Tommy gun in that. As you can only play the Americans in that. It's kind of an interesting system. It's a first-person shooter, but then you can also issue like orders to the other parts of your squad. It's kind of simplistically, but you can like, hey, go over there, and then you work your way over there by yourself. So you can do end arounds and things like that. And in that game, if I remember correctly, that's the game I'm thinking of. The Thompson machine gun had a 20-round magazine. That just doesn't cut it. And I think at some point they did have a 20-round magazine and then extended it to 30 or 32. And of course, you also have the big cylindrical ones, but that wasn't really common. I think it was trying to tell you about the Battle Cat miniatures. Yeah, and I went on to look at them, and then I guess I lost you guys. Another 13 minutes later, I was on before I realized that I didn't have my phone on, so I'm watching my feed here. So as long as I stop seeing movement there, I know I got disconnected unintentionally. Yeah, so anyways, I was saying the Battle Cat miniatures look pretty good. And I was trying to get the Australian figures to load up, and I didn't. But I'll take a look at that once I'm not online. But is it the files, or they actually do the printing for you? Because I have zero interest in getting a printer. I'm actually never going to get one. I'm pretty adamant about that because I know it's going to cause me frustration. I get paid for frustration. And I still wish I didn't. So I'm not going to volunteer for that. Get all excited about some print being done when I come home from work. And then it's like, meanwhile, like it printed wrong. And, I get home like, I'm not going to wait another day to... I don't need that in my life. I don't need that in my life. Somebody with a different personality can deal with that. They look interesting. I saw them on eBay, so I assumed they printed them out. Yeah, just be careful about Speed Pack. Don't buy stuff from Speed Pack. I got a pair of Crusaders. I don't know when they're going to make it here. I don't know if they're going to make it here in time for the operation in the desert, but. And then once again, after I have these issues, I'm like, you find out if that's a common issue. Oh yeah, it's like a shit show. Well, I should have checked earlier. I wouldn't have ordered from them. I may have done it anyways because they just have that model of the Crusader. It's not available anymore. I don't know what it is about these model manufacturers. They'll like make it and they don't want to sell them. There's like a limited run on them and they didn't fire up the factory to make more of them. So some items that shouldn't be rare or out of print are rare and out of print. The Pegasus set of the KV1s and KV2s. Those are impossible to find. I mean, I was able to pick one of them up. My buddy Joe found me two at Historicon, I think last year. Picked those up, so I'm all set. I don't need more than 6 KV2s. That's too bad. Well, they have the replaceable turrets, which is super handy. I think it's the only Pegasus model that comes with 2 different turrets. They make all the other Pegasus, they just don't make that one. I think they did that, and then it might have created a loss for them, and like, we don't need to make any more of these. Jones. Dr. Jones. You call him Dr. Jones, lady. Or however it goes. Mar. Yeah, this guy's got his pants untucked. He's somebody because he's got a 1911 also on his hip. There's another low-flying helicopter. Wonder if he's going to crash into the house. I always worry about that. I had one guy was in the garage one time at this house, and this plane, we've got these pine trees that are, say, 100 feet. I don't think they're taller than that. And this plane just went right over him. He must have been 10 feet off the. I mean, it was really. I thought he was going to like land in the cow field or something like that over there. I was expecting to hear a boom, but he came, was so loud, and then he just went over, and I was like, that's just what we need, somebody to crash land on somebody's house. You crash on my house on a plane, and your plane's on fire, I'm not getting you out of the cockpit, pal. You're gonna roast. Like a chestnut. Well, we're getting to the bottom of these, and then we'll start doing the scrapes. And we gotta do these in small batches. We can't do a zillion of them at once. I've got some of them. I've already scraped some of it off, so we'll probably start with that. Melnikov. Yeah, I do my flesh a little bit different than these. I like how I'm doing it now a little bit better than this. These are a little bit more orange. The Orange Man Army. Well, not that orange, but Wallace. This is a cool figure. He got his tobacco in his mouth. I don't know if he was inspired by Elliot Gould and A Bridge Too Far. Hopefully not. Oh, he wasn't a sergeant though. I forget who the hell he was playing, but he was playing at least a captain or a colonel or something like that. Maybe a major. Elliot Gould playing a soldier is like me playing a stoner. Like, that's just a bad combination. Goldash, Comrade Goldash. Yeah. These are all names, no doubt, I got them off of. Probably playing Close Combat. It's always got to be a Johnson. Big Johnson. So Americans have got like parts of like two squads, 60 millimeter mortar team, 30 cal team and like an FO, and that's like what happened for the Americans. It was like out of one of the scenarios. Purple Heart Hill is what it's called. It's from the Heroes of Omaha and Panzer Lair book. That was the scenario that I put on it. That show 20 years ago. So we'll learn what the mistakes that we made there, which is like putting people on both sides. Put everybody on one side. Just run the other guys. This guy's covering his ears. Kaneshiev. And we do need to go to the hobby store this weekend because we're out of a couple colors. Or we're dreadfully close on running out of black. These things consumed, well, not this one, but the other one's consumed way too much material there for that. Paint. Soaked up paint like crazy. This is what I started talking about first. Baranov, the mortar commander. Who is it? So this is a figure I need to actually fix. It's one of those things I did not know. I have to change this guy's name, and I'm actually fine with his name other than the ending on it. So the Russian names, there's a female version of every name. And I did not know this at the time. So this guy is Soboleva. Well, Soboleva is automatically a woman. Okay? So Soboleva would be either the daughter or whatever, and her dad would be Sobolev. So we're going to change. And if I fuck it up, then we'll just print out another one. But I think there's an opportunity to fix this. To Sobolev. There we go. And let's trim this so there's not as much empty space on the side of it, and we should be good to go. I don't have a problem having female soldiers, but actually could have left it as a female soldier. Well, too late now. It's a dude. Mortarman dude. We'll glue that on a second. Almost to the end of the pile here. Gebev. Grigoriev. It's Grigor. It sounds like he's got a drinking problem. They all have drinking problems. Okay. And the Soviet tank crew guys, those three guys are okay. And these guys have magnets. All right, so first things first, let's go ahead and glue this name back on here. Probably shouldn't do it until I did the base anyways, but let's at least be consistent. Oh, fuck me. That's a good way to redo the fucking name. Okay, then we'll do him last, so we got plenty of time for that to cure. All right, the tank crewmen aren't going to actually have names on them because the tank crewmen will actually have names on the vehicle card. And I don't want to, make a tank crewman for every single member of the tank crew in case, just on the off chance that they may bail out. Okay? So if I have a tank commander that's called Timoshenko, for instance, and he's on there, I don't have to have one of these guys as Timoshenko because the next thing you know is, I'll need a set of these 4 or 5 guys for every tank I have, which is just absurd. So I'll be right back. I'm going to go to a little boy's room and be about 8 people. All right, and then we'll start scraping. So if you guys don't like dental work, you may not like this part. No, it's not that loud. It's just, we'll be right back. And I'll leave you guys with some flame markers. How about that? Like I was saying, if I do these dark and it is something that's on fire, you turn this thing on. If it's not on fire and it's just something smoldering, well, then you can just not turn these things on. This will give you guys something to look at. Be right back. They look even better in person. Like I said, it does double duty. That if they're not smoldering, you just turn one of them off. If they're not like lit on fire, like if there's like an explosion or something like that, ammo cooking off and shit like that. I'd make a video on how to make these things, but there's a guy that already did a video how to make on these things, and I basically followed his instructions. I don't know what his name is, but he's the guy that burps at the end. He does, true story. He's like, blah. I'm like, okay, that's cool. We'll see what to look on the battle, because I'm telling you, I've got this thing. I want to do that airfield in North Africa that's just all wrecked to hell, and probably, I probably could order. There's a guy that does 3D printing on eBay. I don't remember who the hell it is. Mini tanks or something like that. And the price of his vehicles is just right. The problem is he's using PLA. So it's like really rough looking. What if I use them for destroyed vehicles? Okay, like order an M10. Just see what it looks like. If it looks like ass and I can't use it, okay, then I can make it a wreck. There could be a wreck on here. But anyway, so there's this one airfield during Operation Crusader that seesawed back and forth. Operation Crusader was a seesaw battle anyways for, I'm going to say, a month. Maybe it was 3 weeks, or certainly at least 2 weeks, where the British were on the offensive in late 1941. And there was this airfield that they held off all kinds of attacks on. So the airfield would be strewn with vehicles and stuff like that. So some of these vehicles are like $3 a piece. And if it's going to be smoldering and shit, I mean, hell, I could have the vehicle that has maybe not this smoke, but has smoke already permanently stuck to it, right? So you could cover up some of the. You don't have to make it look wrecked, because if you make something look wrecked, it's more effort than just making it look like it's new or in service. So I may do that. I may actually do that. I may order some vehicles that are in not good shape, and because I totally see having a battlefield like that, where it is just. As a matter of fact, there's one of the North Africa scenarios in the scenario book for skirmish campaigns that actually has that. I'll show that to you guys right now. Now that I think about it, it's actually a pretty interesting scenario. So I'm certainly not going to buy a new vehicle and trash it. Like, I don't mind spending $4 or $5 on a vehicle. I think there might even be less than that. Like, who makes the cheapest 3D printed thing? We're just going to turn into a wreck anyways. And I don't mean like we're going to bash it. I mean, just, leave it how it is. You could grind some of the tires so that they're flat or something like that. And then it would be, covered stuff. That's why I like this show, because I brainstorm things. Even though you guys aren't really interjecting all the time, it helps me process stuff. And of course, the book we're talking about is, I did a review on this page by page. North Africa 4041, Italian Misadventure and the Arrival of the Deutsches Afrika Korps. So there's one of these scenarios, and it might actually be just an Italian scenario. It might actually be multiple scenarios. And there's a scenario in one of the Russia books that's this way as well. There's wrecks on here. But there's one of them in particular, and the board isn't that big either. It's called The King's Own. And so it's a board that is 4 feet by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it's 4 by 8. 4 by 8 board. Okay? And you got a British entry here. You have a British entry here. You got a British entry here. German entry here. German entry here. Okay? And there's a British disabled tank location. British disabled tank location. British disabled tank. British. I guess they're all British. They're all British disabled tanks. Okay? And then in this scenario, so this particular scenario, the Germans have a couple Panzer 3Gs, a couple Panzer 2s, and a couple 221 armored cars. So they just have a machine gun in them. And they have a variable attachment of basically another 2 3s, another 2 2s, or another armored car with a recon team, which comes in on a half track. And the British have 3 Cruiser Mark 4As, so 3 A-13s, and 3 Mark 6s. But the disabled tank chart you roll, the disabled tank chart gives the location of the disabled British tanks and tank crews. So if you look at location 1, if we're going to start in order here, which is all the way over here near the Germans, all the way on that side of the board. That could be roll 1d10 to determine the locations of the disabled British tanks. The number in parentheses indicates the number of crew members at each location. Oh, okay. So you roll a 1d10, and if you roll, say, a 2, you have a cruiser. You get one cruiser tank at location 1 with 4 crew members, another cruiser tank at location 2 with 0 crew members, 2 Mark 6s at location 3 with 4 crew members, and a cruiser 0 Mark. That's really interesting. Yeah, so you would just have to have some kind of a combination and order those for. You know what? We're gonna fucking do that because that's really interesting. That's just something different. So, what kind of vehicles are we talking about? So here's what you're going to do. I've got one A13, right? So I'm going to buy a 3D printed one that's cheap, A13, and see what it looks like. If not, you end up using it as a wreck. So let's get myself all wound up about this. Let's do some research. Let's find a page. I ain't got shit all over it. And a pencil. Because, believe it or not, I make mistakes. Unfortunately. I try to be perfect, but I'm failing miserably at it. Here it is. Okay, so you're only going to want to roll one die. So we got cruisers, we got Mark 6s, M13s, 40s, I guess those are captured. That's the only mix. So that line, you'd need 2 cruisers. And then 2 M13s. Okay? This line, a cruiser there, and a cruiser there. That's 3 cruisers and 2 Mark 6s. Okay? This line is a cruiser, 2 Mark 6s, 2 M13s, and another Mark 6. So now we're up to 3 Mark 6s. Just the maximum scenario for any of these. Cruiser, 2, 2, that's covered. 1 and 1, and 1 and 1. Okay, that's covered as well. That's covered as well. Three cruisers. Yeah, we got 3 cruisers. Okay, this is what we need. We just need 3 cruisers, 3 Mark 6s, and 2 M13 40s. I'm going to find somebody cheap to order those. And then I can make them as wrecks. And we'll practice making wrecks. Unless they look great. Which is, you know, if they have a bunch of those lines, usually the lines are on the top. They're not on the side of the vehicle that are the problem. The top's probably going to have smoldering shit on it. And if they're great, then we know we can get other ones for these vehicles. Okay. Food for thought. Anyways, to be continued. I don't know if I'm going to do that immediately, but I'm going to certainly look into it. I like doing stuff like that. And then, like, not buying them. You know? You get all the thrill of buying it and don't spend any money. And this guy's trimmed up too. Okay, so we got all these guys trimmed out. Now we're going to do the scraping part. So we got to find our X-Acto knife, wherever the hell it might be. And a couple of these guys I've already scraped. Like, for instance, this guy right here, Nemak, who I believe is the leader of the heavy machine gun. At least in that scenario, that's who I used. Okay, he might be the only one that is scraped down. Yeah, so let's go ahead and do Big Johnson here. And let's get this in a position where... Now, this is the way I used to do basing because we didn't know any better. So this is green paint. It's probably polyester for that matter. Paint it green and then dip it in Woodland Scenic turf. Which is, you know, like that foamy shit. Really, really small, but that just doesn't cut it anymore. So we're going to cover this with the true goop stuff. Oh, it's only 8. I don't know if I can goop this many guys tonight. That's a lot of gooping. Let's focus on the Americans. We've got lots of Germans done. Let's focus on the Americans. This guy looks badass. Crawford. And we're going to cover over this. So we don't have to get every single thing off. But it helps. Okay. Terry with the BAR. Or if you don't know anything about World War II, it'd be a bar. Does your game have any scenarios with those gliders and paratroopers? Yes, but I'm not doing paratroopers. Because they're guaranteed not having any combined arms. I'm skipping over paratroopers completely. I'm not doing American paratroopers or British. Even though the British paratrooper smocks look awesome, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing any Fallschirmjägers either. At this moment, I don't own any of the figures for any of them. The most, I actually have some Rangers, but they just look like regular American infantry. Except they've got that diamond shaped Ranger patch on their sleeve. But I've just kind of separated those guys out. I didn't even know that I had them. I didn't intend to buy them. I must have gotten them in some kind of grab bag or something like that. Callum, this is my favorite figures. He's got that, what's that stuff called? Scrim on his helmet. Yeah, there's some things that really interest me about World War II. Some winter battles. The Eastern Front, the Wintergewitter, the relief force to Stalingrad. I've always found that interesting. Kursk is always interesting. The battles in 41. Some of the hedgerow stuff. But like the actual landing on Normandy doesn't interest me. The paratroop stuff doesn't interest me. Market Garden doesn't interest me. You know, it's been overdone. One of the worst scenario books that I have, probably the one I dislike the most, is called Normandy: The First Hours, and almost all of them are paratroop scenarios. And I don't have any paratroopers, and I don't want to have any paratroopers because they don't have any, they don't have any vehicles with them. So you basically have a scenario where they don't have any combined arms, and it's just kind of overdone. There's Calvin. Oh, Stefan has the shit taken off of him too. Okay, I thought there was another one. Oh, and Jurgensen as well. This guy's cool. He's a sniper. He's a 1941 sniper, and he's got a Gewehr 41 scoped. He's got a little bit of scrim on his helmet. Mar. Let's do Mar. But there's scenarios that come that are in the book. They're in the rules, and they're not very good. They're not as good as they're suspect. They're suspect. The TO and E's are definitely suspect. Not really a fan of them. The one with the tanks, well, this just kind of worked, but. But sometimes you look at these scenarios for an idea of legitimacy. You know, like you're a little worried, like, man, I don't want to come up with stuff because, you know, maybe these guys have access to information that they don't have shit. They pulled things out of their ass too. You know, they just won't admit it, but. But I figured they've been play tested before. So they might be in some kind of a balance. That's the only reason why I asked about the paratroopers was because I saw a 20mm glider and thought that would be interesting. It would be. They look cool. The glider parts look cool for sure. I'm not going to say I'm never going to do them, but I don't own the figures for them right now. So I'm like, let's paint what I have first. I mean, you saw I went through the figures. I got quite a few figures, and I've got quite a few figures. If you heard me talking about them, I'm excited about the figures I have that aren't painted. So it's not like I got to go elsewhere, you know? And a lot of these guys aren't made anymore. So it's like, let's paint these guys that nobody's seen, or many people haven't seen. Of course, some people will be like, 20mm. The same way I look at 28, like, I don't care about that. It's 28. But the reason I got into this scale was because, well, we did a run to this hobby store, and they had these particular miniatures by this sculptor, and I was like, I fell in love with them. Like, these guys have so much personality. I can't wait to do them. And it might be that all I'm going to do tonight is just scrape these guys, and then we'll stop, and then we'll do the goop in the morning. I don't have a timetable. It's not like, I got to goop some of these guys. No, I'd rather just do all this and goop them all and then, move forward. Jumping around, not really my thing. Yeah, I'd do it if I have to, but we have almost all the time in the world. Honestly, don't know why this isn't coming off easier. Paint what you have is a good advice I should take. Going through a 15 3K drawer, probably have enough for at least 3-5 more armies for no reason. Yeah, I got so many 15mm figures, it's out of control. And I got guys that I want to paint if I ever get back to it. Notice how I said that, if I ever get back to it. I'm not discounting it. I'm not going to play DBA again, but I like my 15mm armies that I have. Almost all of them. Especially the recent ones. I think they turned out really well. I had a vision, and they kind of turned out how the vision is. But DBA just wasn't providing a really good... It was just frustrating, and it wasn't providing the kind of narrative that... The detail that I'm putting into the figures, I think the figures deserve. I think the figures deserve a better narrative than just, like, vagueness. guys. Mr. Badass himself. Wallace. I'm going to do these guys in exactly the same order I did the other figures. I'll put the goop on them. We'll paint the goop. Then we'll come in and brush and hand paint the dull Vallejo over what needs to have it. The Italians with the Pope and the Byzantines you did were some of your favorites. Mine too. Mine too. Yeah, the Pope was... He pulled some miracles out of his ass. And the Dracula army was fun. And the Irish. Odago and the Irish. But somebody just posted last day, they were doing some game. I think they were using O Group. They were playing O Group rules. And they said, here's these pictures of O Group using the tabletop simulator. I'm like, I know there's videos on YouTube about how to use tabletop simulator. That's just going to take some time out of doing this. You know, and the painting gets me to play the game. It's not the game that gets me to play painting. What I'm saying is what's important to me is to work on the figures, not necessarily to play the game. I know some of you guys are like, man, when are you going to play? I'm like, it's not that important to me. It doesn't mean I don't want to play. It's just like, that's not the importance. The importance is to get this stuff done because this is what gets me through. This is what keeps me from being on the news. Whatever the hell that's supposed to mean. I don't know, maybe you guys hang out with me. We'll do the gooping too, and then we can paint the goop tomorrow. I'm not in a hurry, but I wouldn't mind getting these guys done. Yeah, see, this guy's got the little LT stripe on the back of his helmet. I don't know if in World War II lieutenants were known for being stupid. I have a feeling that they weren't. I think that's a Vietnam thing and other things. I think these... Well, I guess it depends how you got promoted, but I don't really think of lieutenants as dumbasses that, you know, don't have a clue, you know. You did some role-playing games on Tabletop Sim, ended up making some maps that were pretty good. You got pretty good with it. Did you notice that it's exhaust. It uses so much resources on your computer. Like, a computer was getting hot and everything. I'm like, there's like nothing going on, man. I played like 2 games with it of DBA. With somebody who wanted to learn the rules. That fell through. Oh well. Shit happens. They're actually the ones that knew the tabletop simulator well. I know the rules really well. Moran. You mean moron? I said no, Moran. He's got a carbine. I'm just not interested in playing games on a computer very much. I ended up picking up that the American version of the, or American expansion to the, whatever it's called, Ostfront game. And I think I played it one time. I just, if I don't play games, I'm gonna play in the console. Even though some of the computer games are better, but you know, sometimes it's better for the games not to be so good. That way you're not addicted to them for a long period of time. Who else we got? It's American. We're gonna do all Americans. I don't have very many of them. I might as well do the. Oh, Scott. Let's do the commie rifleman too. Not worried about the mortar team guys so much. We could do them next. Oh, this guy's American. Even though he's got a mortar, but he's an American mortar guy. This is how this stuff should come off. Should come off easy. It's just paint, man. And the fluffies. These foam fluffies. Mortarman Morris. Morris the Splat. God, what was the name of that commercial? Was it cat food commercial? Morris the cat. Since you name your miniatures, do you keep track of their kills and deaths? Probably off the thing. They'll get reused. I mean, they'll come back in other battles, but you can find out who's, you know, who has a history of doing stupid shit or bad shit happening to them. Absolutely. You know, if there's one guy, every time he throws a grenade, he seems to miss. Yeah, he'll be known for that. Dickerson. There's one in every crowd. Guy's such a Dickerson. Hopefully that's not your last name in real life. I gotta get a guy and make him a McGill. I gotta get a McGillicuddy. I gotta get a McGillicuddy. Because that's just a silly ass fucking name. Okay? And you may know somebody who's a McGillicuddy, but it just sounds like a make-believe name. You know? Who's the guy in Band of Brothers that had that silly ass name too? You know? Stereotypical. You know, I only have like 60 other Americans to paint. I'm sure we can work on McGillicuddy in there somewhere. I mean, he's not going to be an officer or something like that. It's Major McGillicuddy. Get the fuck down, you know? No. Just some guy with a Garand, probably. Odds are he'll have a Garand. Excellent weapon. Uh-oh. Jones' placards fell down. Does sound like a make-believe name. Even more than a made-up name. Arnold Muffkin. Muffkin's a real reasonable name. So we might work some things in there for humor. I'm glad that's not your real name. That we don't have to use people's real names. Although I could make some dumb-looking guy and call him Harbach, but I'd rather not. That's not what the intent of it is. Okay, it should be able to salvage this just fine. Let's get our little tweezers. Dr. Jones. Dr. Jones, are you a lady? What's the guy on Band of Brothers with a funny name? Mahoney? No, it's not Mahoney. It's although Mahoney is a good name for one of those. What is Mahoney? Is that Irish? I want to say Mahoney's Irish. It's the name that means full of shit. I mean, it's not what it means, but it got turned into that. There's a guy on. It's gonna bug. I gotta look that up now. I gotta have one of those guys. Whatever the heck they are. It's another Irish name. Let's see. Band of Brothers cast. Yeah, this guy, whoever he plays. Malarkey. Malarkey, that's who it is. That guy's the same age I am. Yeah, the guy plays Malarkey. Yeah, that's an Irish name, pretty sure. Malarkey. Malarkey, Mahoney, and McGillicuddy. There's lots of room for, those stereotypical Americana names for the 1940s, Yeah, McGillick, that's a long fucking name. He may have to be prone. Because I'm limited. Well, if you know he was going to be, we can push the figure towards the front, and then you got to... Yeah, I don't want to use a smaller font. I want consistency. Gold dash. Malarkey. That's Malarkey. Yeah. Be funny to have one of those guys with a funny name. Just be a badass. Just show up in the middle, just like, amazing things happen to him. All he's got to do is like pull his chit twice in a row or something like that. He ends up pulling his spears and take off down the fucking road. Nobody can stop him. Because there's no opportunity fire. There's some other things that I want to do. When I pulled out those rules, I don't know if you were here the other morning, there's a thing that in the rules called a beaten zone that units, machine guns that are belt fed can put down. That's basically it's this area that if you put one of those down, and anybody that crosses that area can get hit by residual fire, basically. I'm going to get probably some red acetate. That way it's transparent, and then cut it to that side. Then we leave that down. Something like that. Budenkin. Woodland scenic shit ass foam. Old ass technology. It's not technology at all. It's just friggin' foam. And honestly, it might not look that bad if it was like, not on a green background. But I think this is what Games Workshop was doing. You know what? I bet that's exactly what they were doing back then. I bet they were painting goblin green and then putting something on there. As a matter of fact, this is probably the book that was around back then, which some of you guys may remember this. The Heavy Metal Painting Guide. Look. It's green with like the fluffies on it. Look, this is what it used to look like. This is I mean, there's some nice figures in here. That's a nice undead, whatever the hell that is. And look at the basing on it. It's green with like the fluff stuff on it. That's why I did it this way, because we didn't have the internet. Look. And they don't look bad. They don't look bad until you see something that's better, and you're like, man, we don't want to do that shit no more. You know, but these figures are painted well, whoever painted them. But, you know, the basing is super basic compared to what we have now. Well, this book came out in copyright 1993. This is when I was painting this stuff. You know, do they prime these guys black? 'Cause that's probably where I got it from. Yeah, sometimes they prime them white. I don't prime shit white. Yeah, this was the go-to ideas back then, and it's still painted well. Just the basing on it is extremely basic. No pun intended. Yeah. I'm gonna write that down, by the way. They need some Italian guys. Then they get into fights with each other. And they can't stand each other. They can't be in the squad. Ah, damn, Mahoney got all my stuff on there. Ah, whatever. Gangs of New York. Irish, Italian, Puerto Ricans. Fun times ahead. Fun times ahead. Gebev. That was one of the names. Kind of a short name for Sovietsky. This guy's laying down on the job. What is this? This guy just a layman laying down. I think I did that on purpose. Comes off real easy on the wood. Got a magnet, right? Yep. Sure enough. Metzler is one of the leaders and squad leader. I think he's sergeant. I think he's a Sergeant Metzler. I think this guy's a sergeant too. Oh, that's why I did it on purpose. Yeah, I think he's a 9-1. 9-1 or an 8-1. Sergeant Metzler. I don't know whether I forget my German ranks. This guy's either an Obergefreiter or a no. Feldwebel is a staff sergeant. They don't have the things on there. Yeah, this guy's an Obergefreiter. He's got one of the squad leaders of one of the squads. He's got the stone gray pants too, with the more green tunic. With his MP40 or MP38. I call them all MP40s. And this guy is just a Gefreiter. Yep, he just has one stripe. Yeah, so somebody like this, assuming they're normal quality, somebody like this would get 2 tokens. You know, they'd each have 2 tokens for themselves. This guy would have an additional 2 tokens that he can use on people within his area, and this guy would get an additional token. So if you pull those additional tokens, they could activate anybody within a certain distance of them and line of sight. You know, 3-4 inches, something like that. So you put somebody like this that's got 2 extra tokens with a machine gun, right? So he's with a machine gun crew, like, where's my machine gun crew? Here we go, these 2 clowns, okay? Feltner and Ahrens, okay? So he's sitting here with them. I believe this guy's actually the guy that goes with him, or when I built him, this guy. Yeah, because these guys are actually Platoon 20, and so is he. But this is a nice Platoon 20 figure. So if he's got an extra 2 tokens, and he pulls one of those tokens, he can either tell this guy to go ahead and fire, or to unjam it, if it happened to jam when he fired it or something like that. It just gives opportunity to keep that momentum going. And that's how you can manipulate your turn. You know, by having these junior officers kind of like, look, there's a problem here. Let's deal with that problem now as a free move. You know, same thing if he's a tank commander and his other token comes up that's not him. He basically tells, you know, either if the actual chamber of the gun is unloaded for the loader to load it, or if it's loaded, you get the gunner to go ahead and fire it. You know, it allows you to get that extra, whatever it is that you need to solve the problem, done at that time. So how you manage those guys, and of course it's still random whenever their turn comes up. You have to use it right then. It's not like you can save it. Let me hold on to it and use it. I mean, that could be a house rule you could do later, you know, but it would make the end of every turn really weird, you know. But there's no opportunity fire in the game. So, you know, opportunity fire is one of the most annoying things in a World War II game or any other period. Is it really stops. Okay, never mind, move those guys back, and then, you know, it's almost like a time machine type of thing. It just becomes really annoying as to the players and really bogs everything down. I believe the Russian mortar was an 82 millimeter. I gotta go pee again. All right, well, I'll be right back. Give you guys food for thought. The only downside to the set of rules is that because you're moving each person at a time, you don't really see how the turn is shaping until the end of the turn. Like, for instance, if you've got this squad that's all clumped up here and you're going to try to cross whatever it is that you're crossing, like a street or something like that. Say these were all part of one squad. They're not, but let's say they were. And you needed to have them cross some street that's here, right? You're going to pull one guy, and let's say this is everybody on your team, right? So you pull a chit. Oh, it's Littmeyer. All right, so Littmeyer does his little move, and he's there on his first move. All right, pull another chit. It might be the enemy doing something. All right, and then it's so and so. Okay, so he gets to move, and then you pull another chit, and then maybe it's Littmeyer again. So then he does the other move in here. He moves into the building wherever it is that he's going, right? So eventually, these guys are either going to get shot in the place where they're at, or they're going to get their turn and do whatever it is. So you won't actually see what the actual result is until the end of the turn, that everybody's moved. And it just simulates that slow motion, kind of like Saving Private Ryan, These guys are like more visible, so like somebody will come and take a shot at them or something like that. So it does present a really interesting narrative, though. And the submachine guns and stuff, they have a little square area, which really should be round. Actually, it really should be conical, but anyhow, where they can affect multiple guys in that at one time. So there's little nuances, but that's basically the meat and potatoes of the game. It's not that complicated, and it makes sense. It's not abstract at all. And when you roll to hit, what are you rolling? You're rolling the percentile. You're rolling 2d10. One's a tens digit, one's the ones. That's it. You're going to get a number from 0 to 100. If you roll really, really high, not only you're going to miss and not do anything, but something bad's going to happen to you. You might have a jam on your gun, or you might get a token that says you have to reload. And that means you have to take an action to take that token off, and then you're good to fire again. It just basically means you don't have to reload small arms at all. They automatically gets figured in unless you have a reload token that gets dropped on you. So how do chits work? Okay, so you've got, say, 10 guys on a side, right? So you've got, the game actually encourages you to use cards, like make cards for each guy, or multiple cards for each guy. I hate cards because on top of that, it's a lot of work you have to do. And I'm terrible at shuffling, and I don't think you get a good randomization with shuffling. So what I've always used, I actually used poker chips in the past. Poker chips are extremely noisy, trust me. So what I did is I got, and I don't know where the hell they are now. Oh, they're with this stuff. They're exactly where they should be. So I ordered a bunch of, I thought they were where they're supposed to be. Anyways, a bunch of little wooden discs, and they'll have the character's name on them. And you mix them all in from both sides, and you pull one, and that's who gets to act. And it takes a long time to go through a turn, but most of these scenarios, the scenarios that are in the rules, like that tank scenario, is only 4 turns long. But in those 4 turns, you've got every tanker has 2 actions. So that's a lot of, you got 5 tanks, that's like 25 chits just on one side, times 2, that's 50 chits you got to go through before you go through a turn. So it's involved, But a lot of the times you're going to come through, I haven't done the vehicles yet. I've read the rules. They make sense. Of course they make sense, or I wouldn't want to do them. I have a feeling there's a lot of times where guys just aren't doing anything different. Like, if vehicles are shooting at each other and you have a driver, the driver goes up, well, you don't want to move and you don't want to unbutton. So what does he do? He just sits there. His turn goes away. So a lot of the turns, a lot of stuff isn't happening, The loader's pretty much going to load when his thing comes up. Unless somebody gets, wounded. When is a turnover after all the names have been drawn? Yes. Remember, they get drawn and they don't get put back in the bag until they're done. And then you could draw, like somebody gets killed, but he never got his turn yet. So his 2 chits are in there. So when his name comes up, nothing happens for him. So, but you don't know what order everybody's going to come on. That's the exciting thing. Now, there's different ways to play the game, depending on how you want to do it. I mean, it even says there's flexibility. There's that flexibility, like you pull by squad, and the whole squad can do their action. But then it just turns into every other game. Every other game is like that, you know. So I just like the fact that it's like, you know, you put the focus is on one guy, you know. If you do one guy, you're like, okay, how many guys have shot already? It just gets too complicated, you know. And it's kind of exciting that you may need to do what you need to do because your turn may not come around. You get picked off by somebody. So that's the meat and potatoes of the whole game. And how you manage that, how you manage the chaos is what makes the game interesting. And if you think a lot of weird things happen in DBA, just wait to go into hand-to-hand combat. So that's a really simple way to explain the game. It's not complicated. It's not abstract at all. You know, it's really easy to figure out. Well, how far can a guy move? He moves like 5 inches. There's even a counter on that. So this is as far as each figure can move max each turn, each token. So you could move it maxed 2 of these. You know, and you could pull a chit out, and it's Jones' turn to move. Put that chit away, pull another one. It could be Jones again. He could move twice in a row. You know, it could happen. But then he's done. I mean, he doesn't get anything else. I mean, you know for a fact that guy is done. So. It's just an interesting mechanic. And so the interesting thing about this set of rules is a buddy of mine, my original Mitch, and I were coming up with this. We like these figures, and we wanted to play a skirmish game with this scale. So we were designing a set of rules around that. And that thing I just described is what we were doing. Okay? So I came across this set of rules. Oh, and they do the same fucking thing. I mean, that's not the default. The default set of rules is the default way to play Face of Battle is you make 2 decks, okay? And then each side has a card for each guy. And it actually says there's lots of different ways to play, but the standard way to play the Face of Battle is you have 2 decks, one for the Allies, one for the Germans or whatever, and both sides flip 1 card at the same time. Now, if the Germans have 20 guys and the Allies have 10 guys, that means you have twice as many chits, twice as many cards. It says you have to make a deck with half the dummies. So half the time that a German flips, there's going to be a dummy card that the Allies don't do anything. But generally, it's not a 2-to-1 ratio, you know. But one side's going to have more of the other. But that's just a nightmare. Every turn you've got to readjust it. The deck's not going to get shut. I don't want any part of that, you know. And so it was like that was one of those things that also diverted to the way that we were doing things. The other thing that diverted is we wanted to play in 1-to-1 scale. That means, you know, when you're throwing a grenade, it goes this far away. It doesn't go freaking 2 inches, you know. So you're not. The ground scale's not is a minimum of condensed, you know, because you do all that and then you've got this room that's this big. Well, how big is that room in real life when you can only throw a grenade too big? It's like a freaking Hall of Versailles. You know, if all you can do is throw a grenade 2 inches away and you got a room that's 4 inches by 4 inches, that's like one of freaking Louis XIV's, you know, room where he would do like balls or something like that. It's like, it's unrealistically sized. So it's just easier to keep things as what you see is what you get. So, and this game is able to, you can play it condensed also, but you're able to play it in actual scale. So there was a lot of things that fell into place. It's like, you know, this is almost exactly what we're coming up with, and we don't have to play test it, you know. And it's very difficult to play test something like that when you're only able to meet once a month. It's very, very difficult. So I still have the set of rules that we were coming up with, and you know, it was never going to be to sell them. I'm not interested in selling them. I just want to like play with the shit I created. So. I came across with these set of rules. We played it a couple times, played it at a con, and then he moved away, and I found DBA, and the rest is different, history. But everything I've seen about these guys are pretty solid. The only thing that we were doing differently is you have to hit chance with a weapon and the effect is figured in one roll here, whereas I had it separate the other way. So, and you think, well, that's pretty tedious. Well, not when you're spending 4 hours painting a figure. Like, if I'm spending this kind of time painting a figure, I want them to be on the board for a little while. I want to at least look at them for a little bit. Not like, all right, set your guys up. All right, they'll all move 2 inches. Okay, roll 12 dice, and however many dice you roll, that's who dies. Like, well, why am I being so intricate in painting these guys if that's how they're going to be treated, like a bunch of lemmings? And that might work for some people, but that doesn't motivate me to build more stuff for this game. So, and again, for me, it's the figures what's important, not necessarily the game. So, but yeah, that's when the turn's over, and then everybody goes back in. So it's a good idea to do the maintenance as you go. Like, if somebody's dead, go ahead and pull up their shit. So you don't like pull them again. Oh, Frank is dead again. All right, well then the next turn that they're not going to be played. But once they're gone, they're gone. But it just seemed like I'm reading that rules. I'm like, that's way too much of a pain in the ass making 2 decks that are exactly the same. And then what if somebody dies and you have to put more dummy cards in there? I'm like, that might be like good for like if you had a computer program that did that. But then it would be suspect. Like, do you really trust a computer program that's going to randomize who's coming up next? It could be tampered with. I mean, with a bag's a bag. They're all in there. They're all shaped the same way. So it's not like some of them have burrs or something like that. Like, let me find the one that has the burr. That's Franklin. He's a badass. I want him to go next. So it works for me. It may not work for somebody else. One of my friends was talking about, he was playing a game of Fireball Forward. Now, I've heard that game before. They even make scenario books for it. And when he said he described it, yeah, it's kind of a beer and pretzels. I'm like, I'm out. I mean, beer and pretzels may work for other people. As soon as I hear beer and pretzels in World War II, I'm like, I'm not interested. I'm not going to build stuff for a beer and pretzels game. It just doesn't interest me. And, I'm not poo-pooing anybody who wants to play that beer and pretzels game because I'm not trying to convert anybody. If you don't like this, that's cool. You don't have to like this. I'm doing this for me. I'm not doing this for anybody else. Just like I'm doing this task, not to show you how to scrape this stupid stuff off a figure, just because it's got to be done. And as it is, we've got just 5 left. Although now I start to feel like, I know what a dental hygienist get, with the carpal tunnel. I don't know if it's carpal tunnel, but just repeat motion. So we're going to do these guys here, and then we're going to call it an evening. We'll be back. We're not going to do any gooping tonight. We'll do the goop in the morning. I'd be surprised if I can get all this gooping tomorrow morning, but we'll do all the Americans. We'll knock out all the Americans that we can, which is a fair amount of them. I mean, most of them are Americans that are here. I got more Germans than I do Americans, but that's because on this particular scenario that these guys were built for, it required actually more German troops. It required more German troops than Americans. So the Americans were on the defense. They had a couple fire teams and a couple of support weapons and odds and ends stuff. And the Germans were on the attack. In that particular scenario, it was a post-Normandy landing scenario. 352nd Infantry Division, I believe. Against the 29th, it was part of the 29th Infantry Division for the Americans were. And skirmish campaign, Purple Heart Hill, I believe is what the name of the scenario is called. I actually made it out of foam. It's a 2x4 board. It's pretty tight. And I actually made all the dimensions, all the terrain in 3D. It didn't look very. I haven't opened it yet, but It didn't look very good by today's standards. By the stuff that I do now, well, I didn't have the internet to get ideas from other people. A lot of the stuff that I do, like that comes out really well, it's because I was inspired by something that somebody else did. And hopefully, I'm doing the same thing for some of you guys. You're like, man, I don't know, your stuff looks so good, but well, stick with it, man. You could just keep trying; it'll get better. I feel like every time I do something, I keep getting better at it. There's going to be one of those days where I'm not going to be able to do that. I'll get the shakes and shit like that, and hopefully not, but it's inevitable. So let's knock this shit out while we can. Two more. This guy's got a hearing problem. Ganeshiev. And Sobolev. Very common to have Russian names that end in a V. Okay, so that's where we're going to start for the evening. Thanks for stopping by, folks. And we'll see you guys in the morning if you're morning people. If not, sorry about that drop that we had in the middle of that show. I had no intention of doing, but it happens. We recovered nicely, so